Greetings, it's Iain from RTL here. Welcome to Pick and Mix. And this week it's in Mixing It Up, which means we look at a producer. So what we do on this one, we go through the albums that a producer produced, and then I go and pick my top 5. And today we're looking at one of the great British music people, full stop, and that's Gerry Bron. He was born 1st of March 1933 and passed away on the 19th of June 2012. But he wasn't just a producer, a manager and a music industry professional, founder of Bron's Records. The whole family are sort of musical and arts. He's the brother of an actress, Eleanor Bron, and son of a music publisher, Sidney Bron. And he also used to run London-based Roundhouse Studios, Bron's orchestral services, music publishing. He used to work in America with Aaron Schroeder, and one of his first acts was Gene Pitney. And he did do so many things, and Bron's Records produced some of the great album artists that we had. So, the bands that he's managed, okay, apart from Gene Pitney, the Bozo Doodah Band, Marianne Faithfull, Manfred Mann, Colosseum, Abyssia and Uriah Heep. He managed all them bands as well at some stage. So, what a career this guy had. So, let's have a look at his albums that he's produced. So, the first one that I could find, his first one was done in 1965 by a band called Free City 4, the Three City 4. They're a folk band, Martin Carthy and Leon Rolson and Marion Mackenzie. They were a sort of a folky sort of band. Well, let's just describe him as a sort of a Seekers type band. There's a couple of good songs on this album. There's gonna come a morning's not too bad. 1967. He produced a great album called Gorilla by the Bozo Doodah Band. British art students who were just had a brainchild of Vivian Stanshaw and Neil Innes. Some great stuff in. They appeared in the Magical Mystery Tour, this band, and they were on the TV show that started sort of the Pythons, where he met some of the Pythons. Do not adjust your TV set. Songs on here that are brilliant. It's Jollity Farm, which is hilarious, and the brilliant outro, which is bizarre. We'll talk about that later. 1968. He's working with the Bozo Band again, and the album The Donor in the Granny's Greenhouse. Hello Mabel and My Pink Half of the Drainpipe. That just highlights off that one. Then he does Gene Pitney's She's a Heartbreaker, which has got a great track on it, She's a Heartbreaker. The title track's pretty good. And If You Only Had Time, one of his big hits. Then we go on and he does a bit of Manfred Mann, and the album What a Man. Morning After the Party is a great track off this album in one way. 1969, he works with a great band who I really love, and that's Colosseum and the brilliant Valentine Suite album. 2 tracks on there, of course, is the Valentine Suite itself and the Kettle. Great track. Also in 69, he works with a British blues band called Juicy Lucy. Now, these are a great band. Formed by a US-born steel guitarist called Glenn Ross Campbell and a saxophonist called Chris Mercer. We've all heard of them. The name Juicy Lucy came from the Found Virgin Soldiers. Some great tracks on here. Mississippi Woman's great, and Chicago Northwestern, 2 great tracks. And he ended in the 60s with another album with Colosseum, and it's For Those About to Die We Salute You. Another great tracks on here. Walking in the Park and Be Aware of the Ides of March, some of my favourites. Start of the new decade, the 70s, he's working with a chap called Richard Barnes, and the self-titled Richard Barnes. Now, Richard Barnes is a singer, had a bit of success, and he was an actor as well. Take It to the Mountain is one of his most popular tracks, and a track called Go North. He's back working with Colosseum on the Daughter of Time album, another great album. 310 and the Daughter of Time, fantastic tracks off that one. Then he's back working with Juicy Lucy. I do like Juicy Lucy, great little blues band, and they lie back and enjoy it. Built for Comfort, Hello LA and Bye Bye Birmingham, fantastic tracks. And then in 1970 he starts his work with one of my favourite bands, Uriah Heep. And the first album he does is their debut album. Very heavy and very humble. And what tracks we have on there? Gypsy and Come Away Melinda are just the highlights of that one. We move on to 1971, and the first thing he does is produce a Colosseum live album, which is just absolutely phenomenal. We'll talk about that another day. Okay, he's back working with Uriah Heep on the fantastic Salisbury, which gave us tracks like Bird of Prey, Lady in Black, and the very experimental but wonderful Salisbury itself. Absolutely brilliant. He starts working with a guy called Tony Hazard. He's a songwriter. He wrote for other people. He wrote Listen to Me by the Hollies, The Man from Man, Ha Ha Said the Clown, and Fox on the Run. Wrote for all sorts of people, but he actually had his own album out called Loudwater House. There's a great track on here called Daffodils, and Look at You, and Loudwater Zoo itself. Fantastic. Then he works on another great album by Uriah Heep, the Look at Yourself album, which has got Look at Yourself on it, of course, and the brilliant and the fantastic July Morning. 72 was a huge year. Worked on two Uriah Heep's albums. The first one is their brilliant Demons and Wizards, Easy Living, Circle of Hands, and Paradise. Just fantastic tracks. Not content with doing one album with them, they do a second album in 72, and it's The Magician's Birthright, Sunrise, and Happy Birthday to You, The Magician's Birthday. What a track. 73 he produces that great live album of that classic lineup of Uriah Heep live. And then Ken Hensley decided he wanted to do a solo album, Proud Words on a Dusty Shelf. Great album with tracks like From Time to Time, Cold Autumn, and Sunday. He's back then working. Ken's gone back to Uriah Heep, and they do the album Sweet Freedom, which has got Stealing on it and Sweet Freedom. Then he does Mike Moran, Fair Warning, which is a bizarre album. I couldn't find anything on it, but he did produce this album. I think I've heard one track and it was a bit weird. 1974, back with the Heep for Wonderworld and Suicidal Man. Just great tracks. Then he works with a band called Tempest, a prog band, which John Heisman was a part of, who was in Colosseum, and Mark Class. They released a couple of albums, one being Living in Fear, and this has got Stargazer on, which has got nothing to do with Rainbow, and Living in Fear itself. Great tracks. It's a great little album. 1975, whizzing through the decade now, and he starts working with a band called Osabisa. Now they're a Ghanaian British Afro band. Now if you like Fela Kuti, you're going to sort of like some of this stuff. And the album Welcome Home, two tracks good on there, A Sunshine Day and Tubular. Pretty good. Then he does produces Mike Gibbs direct from the Waterfall Orchestra. Interesting album, to say the least. It's got some nice ambient stuff on and jazz. Two good tracks on there, Renarium and the Tunnel of Love. Then he's back with Uriah Heep for the Return to Fantasy album, which has got the brilliant Return to Fantasy and Devil's Daughter. Two great tracks on that one. 1976 is back with Obisa and Ujay Awake, The Coffee Song, and Hamatan is a pretty good one. Then we go on to 1977 and Woody Woodmansey. Woodmansey, of course, and his U-Boat album. It's alright. Star Machine and Ooh La La's alright. Then he's back with Uriah Heep. New singer, John Lawton. And the first one he does is Firefly. Just got the wonderful Wise Man on it and Sympathy. One of the great John Lawton Uriah Heep tracks. And then he does another one in 2 albums from Uriah Heep that year. An Innocent Victim comes out. The brilliant Free and Easy and Cheat and Lie. 1978, he's back with the Heap, doing Fallen Angel, Woman of the Night and I'm Alive. And he sort of goes a bit quiet. 1980, he comes back with Uriah Heep's Conquest. Yeah. The only track on there I really like is No Return. 1984. There's a band called Bronze, and the album is their album called Taken by Storm. Now, Bronze were a hard rock formed in Bath, and they did play at Stonehenge in Glastonbury. Heat of the Night and Tiger are good albums. And that's the last sort of album that he actually worked on. So he spent a lot of his time working with Uriah Heep, of course. So now, my top 5. Oh, this was tough. I didn't want to just pick on Uriah Heep, so I had to really go and listen. So my number 5 is Gorilla, the debut album from the Bozo Dog Doodah Band. In 1967. Now on here we've got Vivian Stanshaw, also remembered for doing the little speeches on Tubular Bells, who plays lead vocals, trumpet, euphorium, tuba and ukulele. Mr. Neil Innes, guitars and pianos. Vernon Dudley, bass, Rodney Slater. Sam Spoons on double bass. Legs Larry Smith on drums. Roger Ruskin Spear on saxophone, and Eric Clapton plays the ukulele on the intro outro. Let's come back now. It opens up with Cool Britannia, their version of Rule Britannia. Very, very funny. The Equestrian Statue, a really funny song. You can see where Neil Innes when I ended up working with the Pythons. It's just one of them silly songs and jolly. Then we have Jollity Farm, which is one of my favourite tracks on this album. This is hilarious. It could have been in a Hollywood silent movie. The arrangement is wonderful. Then we get this thing, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Silly, funny, bizarre. Look out, there's a monster coming. Just typical Vivian Stanshaw. This man was out there, wasn't he? Very jazzy, very fun. Silly instruments, all good fun. Jazz, delicious, hot, disgusting, cold. It's defined as jazz, but it's really 1930s Charleston. Death Cab for a Cutie, rock and roll, boogie woogie, with a sort of Jerry Lee Lewis piano. And then Narcissus, which is totally bizarre. The intro outro, which is the killer track on here. We've got Casanova on the horn. Hitler plays on here. Lord Snooty tap dancing. Eric Clapton is playing ukulele. You've got Harold Wilson playing a trombone. And then one of the funniest thing is Val Unicum being himself, and he goes, hello. And then on gong we have J. Arthur Rank. Absolutely killer track, brilliant stuff. Mickey's son and daughter, some nonsense, whistling silliness. Big Shot, just brilliant. Music for the Head Ballet. It's the Piggy Love. They're all just funny songs, on board, hilarious. And then they do their Mickey taking of The Sound of Music. I just think this is a brilliant album. It's a lot of fun, and I love listening to that album. So my number 4 is the debut album from Juicy Lucy, from 1969. Some great tracks on here. The band is Ray Owen lead vocals, Chris Mercer on tenor sax and organ and piano, Neil Hubbard guitars, Glenn Ross Campbell lead vocals, Keith Ellis bass and Pete Dobson drums. Mississippi Woman is a great Juicy Lucy song. The saxophone's brilliant on this. Then we have Bo Diddley's Who Do You Love? Really good version on this. I like the bass work on this. She's Mine, She's Yours. The saxophone on here from Chris Mercer is fantastic. Great little bluesy number there. Just One Time. The saxophone is very good. Then the brilliant Chicago Northwestern. I love this track. It's got cowbells on it. Train. It's got that train thing. Then they do a beefy version of Chuck Berry's Nadine. Are You Satisfied is a really good track. Check that one out. Walking Down the Highway, standard song. A pretty good album. Never heard it? Go and check it out. My number 3 is from Tempest, their second album from 1974 called Living in Fear. Ollie Horsell did guitars, Mark Clark on bass, John Heisman on the drums as ever, and we've got the Funeral Empire. Great guitar work here from Ollie. Paperback Writer, the Beatles song, really good version of this. They do it's just different, but it's a great version. The Stargazer, funky bass line, I do like that. Dance to My Tune, drums are brilliant on that from John Heisman, a great drummer he was. Living in Fear, one of my favourite tracks by this band. Yeah, solid track, Waiting for a Miracle. Some not acoustic guitars on that one. Turn Around, very progressive. A little gem of an album. My number 2 album from Colosseum, and it's the brilliant Valentine's Suite. Dave Greenslade on the Hammond, Dick Hexgall Smith on saxophone, John Heisman on the drums, James Leatherhand on guitars, Tony Reeves on the bass. What a band. The Kettle, love this. The drumming from John is fantastic on there. The Elegy, the guitar riffs are great. Butty's Blues, the bass line from Tony, fantastic. The Machine Demands a Sacrifice, just one of the great songs. And then you get the Valentine's Suite, that's just phenomenal. Simple as. I just love this album. But my number 1 album is going to be a Uriah Heep, and it is my favourite album by Uriah Heep, of course, and it's Demons and Wizards from 1972. David Bryan, Ken Hensley, Gary Thane, Lee Kerslake, and Mark Clark does play bass on one of the tracks. So it opens up with a wonderful The Wizard. Just a classic, isn't it? Another classic comes next, Travel in Time. These are just great psychedelic things. The wonderful Easy Living, Heavy Hard Thumping. Poet's Justice. It's one of the tracks that I've forgotten on this. I do love Ken's work on this. Circle of Hands, a contender for the best track on the album. I love the beginning with that vocal David Bryan. Ramo Demon, another classic off this album. All My Life, one of the forgotten tracks on this album. Then we have my favourite track on here, Paradise. It just blows me away, and you can't have paradise without the spell. It's like fish and chips, go together. This album just had 7 classic tracks on it. At Uriah Heep at their supreme best, and beautifully produced by the legend that was Gerry Bron. Gerry Bron is one of the great British music gurus who worked with so many great poets, and his bronze gave people their break. So there we go, bit of Gerry Bron. You know, we salute you, sir, and thank you for what you did, and God rest you in peace. Okay, that's all for shows today. We'll be back later with live stream at 8 p.m. tonight. So see you there. If not, tomorrow, busy day tomorrow. We've got a live album ranking of Simple Minds, and then 2 new albums suggested by the one and only Mr. Richard McCook. And one of them is Bauhaus Staircase by OMD. And the other one we're going to look at tomorrow is the new album from Graham Parker. And it's called Last Chance to Learn the Twist. And then when one would do this, then Saturday, got another show with Richard. So Richard's sort of dominating Friday and Saturday with his ideas and suggestions, and us working together on Saturday. So I will see you tonight on the live stream. Bye for now.